a significant development between India and Iran with the signing of the Chabahar port deal. This is the first time that India will be managing an overseas port. To discuss more about this, I'm being joined by the Iranian Ambassador to India, Ambassador Iraj Elahi. Thank you so much for joining us here. It is indeed a pleasure, but also this deal comes amidst a lot of tensions, pulls and pushes. What does the deal entail?
Thank you for having me and giving me this opportunity to share with you and with your audience some information about Chabahar. You know, it was a complicated contract. In 2016, an MOU was signed between Iran and India, which defined the general items of cooperation between Iran and India, Chabahar, and investment of India in Iran, and obligation of both sides. But it should be, it needed some details. Every detail should be defined. Details mean technical issues, legal issues. So the discussion and negotiation of two sides continued and prolonged. The differences between two sides in some items, such as arbitration, was very deep. And in some cases, technical issue was raised, and also sanction affected the process of signing this contract. Despite of this difficulty, according to the strategic importance of this cooperation, and based on the willingness of high-ranking leaders of, PM Modi and President Raisi, the concerning people, legal and technical, have to reach to conclusion and resolve all difficulties and problems. At the end, and after long discussion, they resolve and bridge the gap, and yesterday we witnessed the signing of this important contract.
Right. Ambassador, in this contract, India is going to manage the port. What does it mean? What are the things that the port will have, and what is the advantage that India gets out of this?
You know, India has good experience in maritime transportation, shipment and shipment. And in fact, the main aim of this contract, and even Iran invited India to come to in Chabahar, has two main goals. First of all, to use the Indian expertise and experience in management and operation of Chabahar, which we hope that by Indian company IPGL, this port will be activated and operated very well. Secondly, because of the sanction, we have some difficulty to invest and prepare the equipments in Chabahar. We, according to the provisions of this contract, India is going to invest and preparing some equipments, cranes, and different facility in the Chabahar. India will invest and itself will operate this equipment. By this, we believe that very soon Chabahar will be one of the most important ports in the West Asia.
That's a very significant statement that you make. But it's a government to government for now. Are we also looking at private players coming into the picture?
Private sector is the main user and beneficiary of this contract. You know, India, first of all, Indian company, not the government, Indian company, IPGL, is operating in Chabahar. And at the same time, private sector in India, Indian private sector, Iranian private sector will be benefited from this operation of the ship. You know, now many Iranian company and even Indian company are sending their cargo through Chabahar. So the main beneficiary of this contract is private sector.
There's a lot of geopolitics involved when it comes to Chabahar. Iran is geostrategically very important, but also one that has had a very difficult relationship with the United States of America. Now, America recently has come out and said, despite the waiver in the past, which is why India and Iran have been working on Chabahar, the State Department deputy spokesperson has said that India could risk potential sanctions.
You know, I can answer your question in two parts. First of all, I think India is not an ordinary partner for USA. India is an important partner for USA, and United States cannot easily ignore India and put it under sanction. As you know, recently American confiscated that we asked India to import oil from Russia. You know, in fact, they could not prevent India because India needed oil, Russian oil, and they could not prevent it. I think United States cannot do, because Indian has understood. They have understood the importance of Chabahar, and United States have to obey, have to bear the will and interest of India.
You make a very important point. Now, your American counterpart in India said this recently when he spoke about the Russian oil and how India has been importing oil, to which now America's response is that we almost saying like we allowed it to happen because they wanted the Russian prices to have a cap. And that cap was allowed with India, so there was no price rise. You're saying that US could not have changed the fate of India-Russia ties on oil.
Yeah.
And similarly, you think that on Chabahar also, despite what US says, there is going to be no difference on the ground?
You know, let use this opportunity to give another conclusion from the some words about the importing of allowing India to import Russian oil. You know, United States want the continuation of war in Ukraine. You know, from one side, allowed India to import energy from Russia to not make India in problem. From another side, tried to resolve the problem of its partner in Europe. You know, since India now importing crude oil from Russia and refine it and send it to Europe. You know, the policy of United States is to prolong the tension in Ukraine. Otherwise, you know, if India, Europe, other partner of United States come across any difficulty, they could say something and pushing Russia, pushing Europe, pushing Ukraine, pushing United States to conclude, to stop this war and to stop the economic crisis of this. But now United States, from one side, encouraging Ukraine to combat against Russia, from another side, allow India to import crude oil from Russia to solve the problem or needs of India.
Ambassador Elahi, does that not bring you to another question? Let's flip this a little. Has America's influence waned? Is it that they want a war prolonged, or that its influence has waned where nobody's listening to a country that in the past nobody would have dared to not listen to?
I believe that United States wants to prolong the war in Ukraine. War in Ukraine has different benefits for United States. From one side, it will has some problem for Russia. It proves the needs, the security needs of Europe. And so United States has not been affected by the war in Ukraine at all. You know, it's the Ukraine who lost its territory. So United States policy and strategy is to prolong war in Ukraine. And as United States does not leave sanction against Iran, United States will not this war to be stopped. It is the best leverage for United States to put pressure on Russia as United States use sanction against Iran as an economic leverage.
Talking about the sanctions, should they actually put sanctions on Chabahar and this entire project? What happens then? Will we see difficulties in the future for the project to move forward?
I don't think. You know, both sides have agreed to implement all provisions of the articles of the contract. And I think India is in the position to convince United States about the strategic benefit of Chabahar, not only for India or Iran, but the global economy. Chabahar is the importance of Chabahar is that it's the best and closest port to the southeast of Asia. So most of the Southeast Asia are the allies of United States. They need, you know, after the tension in Red Sea, they need a reliable, secure, and economy route. Chabahar and North-South corridor is the best one. So I think that India can convince United States to not put Chabahar under sanction.
Well, geostrategically, it's very important for India, is not just because it is it gives one the space in West Asia, but also the fact that it's a counter to Gwadar, it's a counter to maybe China, and having access to Afghanistan and Eurasia, circumventing Pakistan. How important do you think this Chabahar's role will be in the access to Afghanistan, to Eurasia, and in the North-South corridor project?
You know, in the field of corridors, what is the main criteria is economy, security, and price, and the length of the trip. You know, we believe, you know, Gwadar, we do not see any competition between Gwadar and Chabahar. You know, people, the owner of the cargoes and shipment can easily make their decision to use which route, which port, which route. You know, but we believe that Chabahar's advantages is in the case that it will absorb most part of the cargo of the Southeast Asia to Eurasia, to Afghanistan, to even Europe. Even, you know, other corridors to Europe is not active now, and after the tension in Red Sea, there are difficulties, and some politicized corridor or initiation still has too many difficulties to be implemented. So Chabahar and INSTC is the best corridor for economy of the world.
But do you agree that this could be an alternative to India's alternative to China's BRI, or for that matter, an unstable Gwadar in Pakistan?
You know, India is a big economy and is growing. I think that maybe there is some competition or some dispute between India and China, or, you know, it's natural, two big country in the Asia. But India needs to diversify its route to different market. Central Asia is an important market for India. Europe, Russia, Afghanistan, Iran, even Iraq, Turkey is our main, our big market for India. So this is one point. India, I think, does not look at Chabahar as an instrument to compete with China. Beside this, do not, I remind you that the MOU about Chabahar was signed before the RIB of China. It means that before that initiation by China, India had made some strategic decision.
Right. So you make a very important point. It started so long ago, and it has taken this long.
Yeah.
Has there been reluctance within New Delhi? Because we see that Russia-Ukraine war did change a lot in terms of India's position and positioning with the West, with the world. Despite all the pressure, they continued engaging Russia. Russia is an important partner. Do you think that this engagement at a time when elections are underway, but they still went ahead and signed the deal, is another show of strength by India? Yeah. To move away from the pressures and threats of the West?
I think India maybe at 2016 understood the importance of Chabahar. Now has reached to this conclusion that Chabahar is the best and unique option for India. And for this reason, despite of the election, and during the election, ministers cannot travel abroad. But we and concerning people in MEA coordinated for the visit of Minister of Shipping and Waterways of India to Iran to sign this MOU. So India, I think, has reached to this conclusion that it's a strategic option and a strategic port for India, and of course for Iran.
Right. Let's shift focus a little now to what is happening in the region, the Israel-Hamas war, Iran's role in it. How significant is Iran's support to the cause of Palestine today? We see that the Sunni Arab world has reluctantly, although they would want to, but have been a little reluctant in actually taking a very strong position. But a Shia Tehran has taken a stronger position. So how is Iran positioned in supporting the cause of Palestine? And does the cause of Palestine unite the Muslim world across Shia-Sunni sectarian divide?
Your last sentence, I think, replied your question. I think that the awareness of the people all over the world, especially among Muslim and even non-Muslim, regarding the Palestinian cause has increased. Nowadays, people all over the world have understood that what is the root of the cause or problem or crisis in the region, in the Palestine. The ongoing massacre in Palestine has made all people sad, and you witness sympathy with the Palestinian. Now even what we are witnessing in the universities of United States, not in the United States, even in Europe, in Australia, in different countries, even but I think that Arab states are supporting in another way. The heart of the people of Arab states are with Palestinian. Even they cannot support as Iran do. Iran explicitly and strongly support and do not deny that it is supporting. It is one of our principle of our constitution. It's our ideology that we have to support oppressed people. We believe that Palestinian people are oppressed. They have deprived from their homeland. A group of people came to Palestine. They pushed the people of the owner of lands to go out, and they settled there and constructed their cities. And even every day they are doing whatever they can do.
Yeah.
So we believe that we have to, from the viewpoint of humanitarian principle, from the viewpoint of the religious Islamic viewpoint, from the viewpoint of ethic, from any aspect we have to, and the sympathy of the world now increased. On October 7, many countries condemned the operation of Hamas, despite it was not a terrorist operation.
You don't agree it was a terrorist organization?
Operation? We at all do not believe that 7 October was terrorist.
You don't believe Hamas is a terrorist organization?
No. Hamas is a resistance group. Hamas is a resistance. Hezbollah is a resistance group. Resistance group. A few days ago I mentioned that there is not two groups, good terrorists, bad terrorists, or we should distinguish between resistance and terrorist. But
if a resistance movement or a resistance group takes up arms, we do know that there are armed movements also, but enters another territory, what many would have claimed is not entering another territory, but enters and then kills scores of them. Should the killing not be condemned? We know that there could be a basis. We know that there has been oppression of the Palestinians, whether if it is in Gaza or West Bank. But should that allow anyone to go ahead and kill?
If somebody occupy your home, for example, what should you do? You will defend yourself. You will defend your assets. You will defend your home. If you enter your home and defend, is it terrorist? Your home, nothing more.
But if it's already taken, and then you enter that territory.
No. It doesn't change the entity of the problem, entity of the cause, entity of the issue. They entered Palestine. Hamas members are Palestinian. They entered their homeland. Now in Lebanon. Hezbollah is every day defend and is targeting Lebanese territory, because some parts of Lebanon still is under occupation of Palestine, of Israel.
There are accusations and allegations against Iran that Iran supports and backs the Houthi rebels of Yemen, Hezbollah of Lebanon, and the Hamas armed leadership. What do you have to say about the fact that this is something that has been leveled against Iran, that you back and support these groups?
Houthis now are ruling Yemen. Houthis are now ruling.
They're in Sana'a.
They're in Sana'a. They are ruling a country. If can we, when we call them a group, it's not correct. They are a government. They are a state. They have a statehood. So we do have, even some countries do not recognize them as and call them as a group. But they have a statehood. They rule the country. They have army. They have economy. They have minister. So this regarding Yemen, regarding Hezbollah, we support Hezbollah. We do not deny that. Without deterrence of Hezbollah, Israel have attacked Lebanon not once, too many times. Through Iran, through Hezbollah, created a deterrence in Lebanon for Lebanese, for the stability of the region. And nowadays, suppose now, there is a deterrence between Hamas and Israel. Without the military capability of Hamas, there were no deterrence. Now Hamas is defending their territory, their land. So if this conflict, this war, Gaza, will stop, there will be a new deterrence between Hamas and Israel, as it is some deterrence between Hezbollah and Israel. And deterrence is main leverage, main instrument for stability and security.
Then that brings me to the question of Gaza. If there was deterrence, one of the American officials said, And the Israelis say that if they really wanted to, they could have razed Gaza to the ground on the first day itself, that they did not do that. However, their explanation is because they say they wanted to not harm civilians, but a lot of civilians have died. So if this is the deterrence, the cost that, that this war, that who are paying for the war is the cost of civilian lives. How does one justify then the lives lost? And where does one go finding peace in such a scenario?
You cannot leave your homeland because if you defend, you have to pay cost. You know, our supreme leader once said that the price of resistance is less than to raising your hand and saying okay and accepting the wills of other parts. You know, we believe that, you know, in West Bank there is no Hamas. In West Bank, South is ruling, but you know every day Israeli troops are shooting civilian in West Bank. There is no Hamas. There is no Hamas. In Gaza, there is Hamas. There were Hamas. Is Hamas. Hamas defend its people. Now, you know, despite this high number of the casualties, the number of victims are, you know, more than 38,000. Gazans are supporting Hamas. They are proud of themselves. They are suffering from they do not have bread to eat, water to drink, but still they are proud of themselves. We are in close relation with them.
But many are asking for the war to be stopped because nobody wants to see their children dead.
Nobody wants.
In such a scenario, can there be an escalation? We saw the Iranian mission consulate in Syria being bombed. We saw the response from Iran. And right now, while there is a bit of calm between the two sides, can there be an escalation? Could Iran be a part of this war officially?
We believe that Iran and Israel both have there is a mutual understanding between Iran and Israel. Both have reached to this conclusion that it's on the benefit of them to not escalate. And not only they have understood this reality, the allies of Israel also reached to this conclusion that it will be not on the benefit of Israel and its allies, the escalation of. For this reason, despite Iran targeted Israeli air base and military bases in 13th of April, there were no retaliation. Of course, mainstream media tried to propaganda that Israel has done this or that. But we, as the country who received, this, we believe that there were no retaliation, and they put pressure on Israel to not continue.
Okay, so you do see a Western pressure to de-escalate tensions.
Yeah.
Finally, before I let you go, India has a very unique role. It is friends with Russia. It is friends with Ukraine. In this scenario, engaged and long friendship with Israel, but also a historic relationship with Palestine. What is the role you think India can play in all this? And do you see, or did you see Prime Minister Modi play a role in this situation at all?
I think India has great influence in all parts of the cause of Palestine. India can use its influence in Israel to stop the genocide in Gaza. India also has good relations with Palestinians. So even India has good relations with the United States. So India can convince them to stop the war. And since the beginning of the war in Gaza, I mentioned this point that India have and can play an important role, and the world expect more active role for India.
The world expects more active role for India. On that note, Ambassador Elahi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
In New Delhi, it's Geeta Mohan reporting for India Today Global.